Good morning, good morning, good morning, and hello to all our listeners around the world. This is Brian Wesley Johnson. I am so glad you're here to join us for another edition of This Morning with Soulivity. This is a time to create a space for all of us, including all of you who are listeners out there, to have real conversations about what is going on in our world and in our own personal lives. So, I'm joined today by some very special friends and Soulivity TV hosts and collaborators. I've got Sheila Applegate, Teresa Greco, and Dr. Chanel de Guzman with me. How are you, ladies?
Good
Good
morning, Brian.
morning. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Listen, I am a little weary, y'all. I had the honor of attending the inaugural ball for now Governor Westmore, who's the governor of Maryland last night. Man, it was a nice shindig, as we would say. Um, uh, what was it? Chris Tucker was there. Um, um, who else was there? Maxwell actually was part of it.
Oh, nice.
And Drew Hill actually was there too.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really
Nice.
cool.
Did
Um,
anybody sing as well?
um, no, I think it was just those specific people.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And
Nice.
so, um, but it was nice. It was a really really nice affair. Um,
So, Brian,
uh,
he's the 63rd governor of Maryland and the
correct.
first African American. Is that
Yes. Yep.
okay? Wow.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was kind of surreal because of the fact that um you don't think that he would like you would think, oh well, there's got to be another black governor before him, but no,
Mm.
no, no. I think he's one of three in the country that have ascended to that. So yeah, yeah, it's interesting, really interesting. Um, And so, listen, before we begin, I just wanted to kind of mention that because, if I'm dragging a little bit, then you guys understand why.
He'll be hopping in a second.
You can't
Right,
hang up like you used to, Brian.
right.
But I'm glad you
Before,
mentioned it. It's great news. Like, it's a great
yeah,
to celebrate. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Brian, and you're
Oh,
right. There's only been 3 black governors, elected in US history.
mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa, whoa. Um, Want to just let everybody know we have a very special guest that's going to be joining us in a little bit. And so, I'll introduce her. But before we begin, I want to make sure that all of you understand that we want you to comment, we want you to ask questions, give us your thoughts during every single broadcast. Also let us know where you're, quote unquote, dialing in from. We had people from the UK and New York here in the United States and Canada. And so just put it into the chat and, let us know where you're coming in from. So, um, we're going to be talking about grief today, everybody. And this is a subject that I think we only kind of discuss when somebody transitions, of course.
Mhm.
But I think that it's important to have discussions about grief, generally speaking. I mean, even when those times haven't occurred in a recent moment, that we may be still carrying certain things in our lives, and it's kind of important to talk about it. What do you think about that, Sheila?
I agree with you. I thought, really, we don't talk about grief much because in my work we do. But um, Yeah, I think of it as we're always grieving something, and if we acknowledge the little griefs along the way, then the grief from someone transitioning or dying can actually be smoother and incorporated into our life easier.
Right. What about you, Teresa?
I agree. I think that we face various disappointments and losses in a variety of different ways, like losses of jobs, losses of opportunity, losses of pets, lots of different forms of loss. And that I think because we don't talk about it as much as we should, we don't have the tools and the skills to be able to fall upon, and that type of emotional intelligence that we need in moments like that to properly process what's happening and to move through it, right? And not that, and depending on the form of the loss, but what kind of things, what kind of tools can you turn to process what's happened, and let it go and move on, and use it as an opportunity to learn from and to grow. So I think this is a great topic. And I think that, and I'm sure our guest today is going to talk about how it doesn't just apply to when people, because I think we automatically connect it with people that have died or left the earth, but we experience loss in a whole bunch of different ways, big and small ways. So I'm with Sheila on that.
And Dr. Chanel, I mean, I'm sure that you have talked to people in your practice sometimes about grief and loss.
Yeah, Brian, sometimes, and what comes to my mind, in addition to what Sheila and Teresa have already commented, it does feel like, it only comes up when there is an actual loss or transition. And it also makes me think that because we don't have the skill of, a regular set skill of coping with loss, we tend to follow the conditioning around loss and grieving. And Brian, I'm thinking about funerals. As a matter of fact, I'm attending a funeral tomorrow, and I attended a
Mm,
funeral this Monday. Now, these are friends of mine who have lost loved ones, so I'm going to support, but it also reminds me, and not to um, minimize anyone's grief, but I do think, and I'd love to hear Dr. Johnson's thought on this, but there is some conditioning that we follow suit, if you will, based on the reactions, at a funeral, especially, at an African American funeral. Oftentimes there is a lot of emotional display. Now, the one I'll go to tomorrow, there won't be, because it's a different culture. And so I think there's a whole set of conditioning that goes along with grieving that we assume, because we don't have this as a regular skill, like Teresa said,
right,
in terms
right,
of coping.
right. Exactly, exactly. Well, again, um, Dr. Chanel, you gave away a little bit about who we're having on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
We're gonna get her set up.
Okay.
It's Dr. Karen Johnson. We're gonna learn a little bit about her. We're gonna ask her. We got a little technical thing that we got to do with her. Dr. Johnson, can you turn off your video on your screen? Just hit V. There we go. All right, and so let's learn a little bit about her before we bring her on. Karen Johnson's fast-paced professional life came to an abrupt halt when she lost her 27-year-old son to a heroin overdose. Rather than grieve in a way that made people around her comfortable, she did the unexpected. She retired, sold her house and all of her household goods, and went on a 2.5-year journey that took her all around the world, finding a spiritual practice along the way. Writes Karen, I want you to know something really important. You may be feeling stuck in your grief and wondering why you can't seem to get over it. I felt the same way until I realized we do not get over grief. It's not like catching the flu. We aren't sick. There is no cure, and we can't medicate it away. Grief is a state of being that carries energy that you can tap into to create a new life. Just as we use the energy of other newly acquired states of being, like marriage or parenthood, to transform our lives, we can likewise use the energy of grieving to transform. Wow. So with that, it is my pleasure to welcome to This Morning with Soulivity, Dr. Karen Johnson. Hello, Karen. How are you? It's been a long time.
Hi, Braz. And I'm
Wow.
be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 I know, our hosts have been, wanting to ask you different questions about not only your book, Living Grieving, but your own personal journey. You and I did an interview a while ago about the book, which was fascinating. Thank you so much for doing that. And you have your own personal journey that is pretty amazing, as we heard in the introduction. So my first question to you is, you decided to make a big change in your life after the death of your 27-year-old son. Can you kind of talk briefly about that period of your life, and the decisions that you made and how you came to them?
That's sort of that long journey. Your old son Ben passed dose, and I all prepared. I knew he was struggling in life, but they went to a party, and then they decided to try heroin. 6'8". He died almost instantly, and so for me that was just out of the world close, and
Right.
I happened to, and he appears like he was in life in front of me with his big grin, and he faded away. And so I called my, I think he's trying to get out. I think you got to have check with the ME, and
Hey,
course
Karen,
he
I
had
think
passed.
hold on, Karen. You're breaking up a little bit. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get your audio kind of fixed, and we'll come right back with more from Karen Johnson. Okay, everybody? We'll be back in about 60 seconds.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices. And together, we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
Okay, we are back. And Karen, are you there?
Yeah. Is this better?
It's a little bit better. Let's see if we can make sure that you're because you're going in and out a little bit.
Oh, I usually have really good.
Uh, this is a live show, everybody. This thing happens every once in a while, so
Every once in a while.
Here.
Yeah, yeah. Is it just something going on with like your mic or your internet?
Everything seems to be up and everything's good. So I don't know.
I tell you what, why don't you like completely log out and log back in
Okay,
and
I'll be right
without video, and
back.
then we'll continue the interview. So everybody, she'll be right back. And so I'll toss to you, Sheila, in Dr. Johnson's life, I mean, with the death of her 27-year-old, it was devastating. And I can't imagine how, anyone could, make it through the way that she has. It's almost like, I feel like it's unnatural sometimes that your child transitions before you,
Yeah. And I can relate to that, having had multiple traumatic losses in my life, and it is a different type of grief. And the fact that she was able to step out of societal's expectations, which have actually lessened over the years. I think we've even condensed what we think is the appropriate time for grief as we've
Right,
moved
right.
into the more fast-paced society and multicultural. I think, there used to be small communities that supported and people would grieve for a year. So I just really honor her for having said, you know what, this is the most important thing right now. And I want to take the time to dive into this, to feel it, to experience it, and to grow from it.
Exactly. So we have Dr. Karen Johnson. We were having some technical difficulties trying to resolve that, everybody. Karen, are you there?
A little bit better.
It's still, I don't know what's going on. It's still kind of breaking up. It's typically happens when something's kind of interfering with the microphone and that kind of deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I have everything. Here, and
Yeah.
I could try restart. That would do it.
Yeah, why don't you try that? I mean, we have time, everybody. Why don't you try that, and then we'll just,
Okay.
We're going to take a quick commercial break while you're doing that, and then we'll continue this conversation because it's important. And we'll be right back, everybody, with more this morning with Soulivity.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And welcome back to More with This Morning with Soulivity. We're talking about dealing with grief and especially those hard times at which it's with a loved one that transitions unexpectedly and dealing with that. And Teresa, you had something that you wanted to share.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Sheila's comment, and me being a parent myself of two kids, I couldn't imagine how, and in knowing some other people who've unfortunately lost their children before you going, right? Because the natural order would be that you're first and then your children, and that it's either, I feel like it would kill me too, right? That you're dead, but you're alive, and how do you pick up the pieces and look at it from, even we've got Zach, who is, participating in our conversation this morning, saying that, that it's an opportunity for us to take those tears and transmute them from ones of sorrow and sadness and into ones of joy and celebration. And there's a process to get to that point, but and I admire those that I know, that have managed to move on and still celebrate life. And so my question would be, when Karen comes back on, is how do we get to that place of celebration? Because I don't know, how long that could take, right? She was on her journey for 2.5 years, and I'm sure it's unique for everybody. And I think that's important to recognize too, that everyone's journey is going to be unique to them, and that we shouldn't put expectations on how people are supposed to move through the different stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I hope that she's able to come back on. But I just think for me personally, it would, if there's two ends of the spectrum about, you seeing the light in all of this versus the darkness. And there's this quote on her website that I wanted to ask her about that says, "Grief is one of our greatest teachers. It cracks us open. That's how the light gets in." And that's from Ram Dass. And I'm like, oh, geez, that's how the light gets in. I'm like, I would just be filled with so much darkness, so much darkness, and so much pain. It's like that, how do you get to that place where the light can come in? And that's, what your loved one would want for you, is to get to that place. But,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something that's just so personal, and I think that it's really one of those situations that you can't judge, and unless you're going through it yourself, that
Right.
it's really hard to know.
Exactly. And we have Karen back. Let's see if we can get if this audio's been fixed. Karen, are you there?
Is a little bit better.
Yeah, it's okay. Keep going. Let's see if it
Yeah, I'm
clears it up.
hoping it's no. Uh, everything looks good.
You guys are going to be live with me doing my old IT stuff, so just bear with me. Karen, can you change the mic settings? So you want to hit the little gear that's there on your screen, and you can change the mic, and let's see if that changes.
Audio input. How is that? Is it installation or?
It's getting a little bit better.
And then video off.
Mm-hmm.
Virtual background. And that's the.
It's for whatever reason your mic is being clipped. So.
Wow, it's kind of beyond me. fix that.
Yeah, yeah. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we'll schedule a time to have you back so we can get this audio thing, because I think, again, this is such an important topic that we have to like talk about. You are so good, and your book is so good around talking about grief and how we can move through that in a more progressive and positive way. So we're gonna reschedule you. We're gonna get these technical difficulties fixed, and then we're gonna have this conversation. Is that okay?
That sounds. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So everybody, we're gonna have Karen back. It'll be soon, so just stay tuned. And we're gonna have this deeper conversation. So um again, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to move into another topic. We'll be right back.
You can find all the Satonic products at our Go shop on Soulivity at go.soulivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Soulivity.
And welcome back to This Morning with Soulivity. This is Brian Johnson, and I'm joined by my very special co-hosts, Sheila Applegate, Teresa Greco, and Dr. Chanel de Guzman. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Brian.
All right. Well, we're going to continue our conversation this morning because, of course, there is lots and lots and lots and lots. Did I say lots? Lots to talk about. I'll open it up to anybody. What's been on your mind? I mean, what's been going on in your world that you kind of want to discuss this morning? Maybe Teresa?
Hi, thank you. I was waiting for Dr. Chanel. She actually had something that she wanted to talk
Oh, that's
about.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Chanel.
Yeah,
Great,
I can.
great topic.
No, I was just making sure if anybody else had anything. Yeah, so Brian, I originally planned to bring up the topic of road rage.
Ooh.
And I think this is going to be a juicy topic, and we want to obviously be very respectful of the topic, but it is very pervasive, and even more so, Brian and Teresa and Sheila, after the pandemic. So I'll just start to share a little bit of background, if I may. So, and I, pulled up some statistics. Some of them came from the American Psychological Association, and some came from motorists. But here's a couple, and also from the American Automobile Association, AAA, that 82% of people, I'm going to say 82% of us, have admitted to committing an act of road rage in the past year. So this is very pervasive, 82%, you all. And that specifically 2021 was the most deadliest year for road rage. 44 people per month were either shot or killed or wounded during a road rage incident.
Wow.
And so this is, I've noticed pre-pandemic, in the quarantine, there wasn't a lot of people on the road, right? And then when we were out of quarantine, I don't know, the aggression levels, maybe the pent-up energy. Sheila, you might be able to speak to that, but it just seems like it's more aggressive. So road rage is aggression tailgating, going over the speed limit, 15, 20 miles per hour. But it's very, it affects a lot of us because either we're the recipient of road rage
Mhm, mhm,
or we are
mhm.
participating. And I'm going to raise my hand and say I have done both. I am both a participant. I'm one out of that eight.
What? I'm
I,
surprised.
I
I'm
know me
surprised.
and my little sweet self. I participated in road rage. Um, and really trying to be very conscious when I get into the car to breathe and to settle myself and to give myself extra time before I get on the road. So I want to invite you all in to let me know if you're a part of that 82% who have committed an act of road rage in the last year. And then, team, we can talk about what we might do about it and encourage ourselves and our listeners to make some positive changes.
Like
So
that.
anybody can just jump right in.
Like that. Like that.
I was thinking I wasn't a part of that. But if you count 15 miles over the speed limit, then I guess I am.
Well, thanks for admitting that, Sheila.
But you were saying, you kind of alluded to that I might have an idea about it energetically after COVID. And I do think it's like, it is probably, we're all still trying to get over a global trauma, right? And the emotions, and because our society isn't very good at facing emotions, there's probably anger and resentment and insecurity that's coming into play. And the car is like, if we're the driver, where we feel like we are in control. And so it makes sense to me that the emotions might come out during that time. And
Absolutely. Teresa, do you have something to share?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I think we need to clarify what exactly what road rage could be, right? That the stats that you shared, obviously the getting shot and getting hurt from the experience would be like on the one end of the spectrum. So I feel like it could be the spectrum, but could be quite wide in that, I'm guilty of the 82 because there are some people on the road that have a license. A license. I'm like,
coming out
what
right
are
now.
you doing? What are you doing? But the other thing is that I heard that statistically, 75% of the people that are on the road are also under the influence of some kind of drugs, whether it's prescription or recreational drugs. So
Yes.
I'm also observing behavior from people that are not following the rules, right? So that's where I start to get a little bit on the hot side because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're crossing over the line. You're not in your lane. You're not going when the light is green. Like, it's the rules that are not being followed. And that's the stuff that starts to get, like, you can hear it in my voice. I'm like, really? Really? Like, you shouldn't even be on the road right now. So it's not that I'm going on my merry way. Everything is great. And then here I am having to share the road with people that I don't know what's going on in your car, but I don't know how you got a license. So I think it's those situations that also are happening, that there are people that are on the road that shouldn't be driving because they're under the influence, or I don't know where they got trained or what the deal is, but I think that for me is a bit infuriating.
Oh yeah.
Sure it is. And Teresa, even honking your horn or tailgating are acts of aggression and road rage. Let's hear from Brian. Brian, are you a part of that 82%?
I'm over here like
We wouldn't call on you.
I'm I would say 95% of the time I'm a very calm driver.
Oh, okay.
I'm like my dad. I mean, my dad taught us to be defensive drivers a long time ago.
Mhm.
And that, you have to kind of remain calm. Otherwise, that's when the mistakes are made, and
Mhm.
it escalates into something else. But there are those times when I think I'm stressed or rushing or whatever,
Mhm.
and I get I'll catch myself, talking about how slow a person's going, or
Yes.
or what, how they're driving and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
especially like turn signals. I'm a big on that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's this thing called a turn
Yes.
signal,
Right.
and you can use it to let people know where you're going to go, left or right. And so, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's me. That's me.
Okay. Well,
That's
thanks.
me.
Thanks for sharing that. You
Whew.
know, for me personally, right. For me personally, I know that I can be going along my merry way, like Teresa said, but if someone is being aggressive with me, so
Yeah.
if someone is on my tail, or someone has cut me off, or they won't let me in, then I tend to, I do tend
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
react,
Escalate.
right? I do tend to
Mhm.
react. So, if I am in the passing lane and I didn't get over fast enough, maybe I'm taking my time getting over, or maybe I won't get over at all. So I do end up engaging and getting in some entanglements. And so I'm wondering, just from because those are all temporary moments, right, you all,
Mhm.
Right.
how we can think about what we can do differently when we are either the recipient, or how do we extend grace, and how do we let things go, I think was mentioned earlier, in our other conversation. But any thoughts, and I don't want to jump too soon into solutions if you all have other things to share, but I just know that this is something that I deal with honestly on a pretty frequent basis. And I think it's because until you master something, you will be presented with additional opportunities, until you get it mastered. And those opportunities then go up higher in the stakes, right? So there's higher stakes if you don't master your issue, if you will. You'll get presented with another opportunity shortly thereafter. Any
Right.
thoughts on that?
So I'll go. And this is gonna be funny, but it's actually kind of true. Don't drive, take an Uber or a Lyft. I mean, seriously, it
Mhm.
works. I mean, if you're
Mhm.
rushing, and you're trying to get to like an event or a place, and it's in your city, and it's you know only 15, 20, or whatever minutes away, and you're worried about parking and all that, just take a Uber. Just take a Uber.
I like that. That is
Take
different.
that stress off of your plate, where you're being driven to your location and driven back. I mean, we have done that many, many a time, and you could literally feel your stress level go just down
Mhm.
completely after that. So
Now
that's
I'm
just a
gonna
thought.
push Brian, I'm gonna push back just a little bit because I think that's perfect in the city.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
tell
yeah, yeah.
you and maybe you all can take a guess. There are 4 top-rated, states that have the most road rage occurrences. They're actually called road rage capitals. There's 4 states. Anybody wanna take a guess at any 4 of them?
I'm gonna
California.
Yeah,
Actually,
Texas.
California's not on the list.
Oh,
Texas,
wow.
Brian,
Actually, they're pretty.
Texas
Yeah,
is number 1.
of course it
Texas
is.
is number 1.
I lived
Yeah.
there for 8 years. I know.
Wow, and Brian, we have this in common. Guess what state number 2 is?
Michigan?
Michigan. I don't
Wow.
even I can
Well,
believe
but
it,
that makes sense,
but it
though.
really does. I mean, we
It
have a
makes sense.
major metropolitan hub here as well, and then I'll just give you the other 2. It's Georgia and Minnesota. I'm not clear on those last 2, but I can definitely see Texas and Michigan. So we may not be able to take an Uber where
Right,
necessarily we're going to go.
I can't take an Uber.
Right. But what I was going to press back on, Brian, is what Teresa was saying. If we're going along our merry way and we've taken the time to settle ourselves and give ourselves enough time, and then you've got somebody else in a rush and someone
Mhm.
else is on our tail or someone else is being aggressive with us,
Right, right.
we still have the defensive driving like maybe your dad taught you all.
Mhm.
Maybe we have to get over. Maybe I have to get out of this person's, and I'll give you an example.
Yes,
I
yes.
was coming home from Bible study, you all, Brian. I'm coming home from Bible study.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
God's supposed to be
Uh-oh.
just perfect. And there was a big truck on my tail, and he wouldn't get off my tail. And I literally put on my brakes. I mean, I
Oof.
slammed on my brakes. So I was being very aggressive. Now, in hindsight, Brian, what I should have done, Teresa and Sheila, I should have exited. I should have merely turned right on a side street and let that person pass. And in the
Right.
future, that is probably something that I would do. Now, that's taking extreme action, but I don't know what was on that man's mind. He was in a big pickup truck and he was, I mean, bumper to bumper on my tail. So I was going too slow for him. So in my relaxed state from Bible study, I obviously was hindering his momentum. So yeah, I would just say we there's a different side of that, right?
Right,
When we're being acted upon, what is still our responsibility to that situation?
right, right.
I liked,
Anybody else?
yeah, it's kind of going back to you, Dr. Chanel, when you said, how do we get in that space of grace? For me, the mindset change that really has helped me shift um, came when I was teaching my children to drive, because I had a different realization that, oh, there are people on the roads that are just learning. And then also my parents were, when they were in their earlier stages of Alzheimer's and dementia, and we hadn't gotten them off the road yet because they still passed those tests, I started to have compassion about the different people who might be frightened themselves. And then also
Mm.
um, you know, myself, when I've been in rough times, or, when I was navigating teenagers and parents with Alzheimer's, you never know what it is for you, but your mind is elsewhere. And to just have that remembrance that somebody else could be going through something that I don't know about, that helps when they're not purposely, well, I guess even if they're purposely like coming up on your tail or something, I can get a little obstinate. But for the most part, I've really realized, you know what, if they're having a bad day, that counts too, and I move over.
Good for you, Sheila. I like that.
I can see Sheila getting pissed, boy. That's not a
Yeah,
that's
there's
not a good
spaces for
thing.
me. It happens.
Well, and we do, Sheila, we do have young drivers. We have older drivers on the road. And so another quick fun fact, well, not fun, but just another interesting fact is that the males who are under 19 years of age are most likely to exhibit road rage and
Oh
tailgating.
yeah. Oh
Mm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
I
So
believe that
it's
without a doubt.
you know there's aggression inside, right, which is displayed
Right.
outside, I would imagine. So
I
so
wanted to share some of my strategies for how I deal with it, if that's
yeah,
okay.
I was going to say, why don't we move into how do we deal with this? How do we get that grace when we've been acted upon? And how do we extend grace when someone else, and just give them the courtesy, even though they may not deserve it?
So, something that I usually do, because as we said, I'm there on my merry way and feeling all good and high flying and happy. And, then there's an incident of somebody speeding, somebody not doing, following the rules, whatever it is. And you can see sometimes that they're visibly agitated. And
Mhm.
and I can see them either in my rearview mirror or as they're like beside me, I'm I'm like, wow, I feel bad for you. Like in that moment, it's like, as Sheila said, that
Mhm.
compassion is like, I feel bad for you. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong in your world that's making you behave like this, right? So I'm just there waving to them with with a really big smile, and my hand is just like hi. And sometimes they're flipping me the bird, and I'm there like with my thumbs up going, hi, like with a huge smile on my face, like, hi, like good job, as they're like speeding past me or doing whatever. And if anything, I think it's quite comedic in some cases where I'm like, wow, like look how agitated this person is getting just because I'm just doing the speed limit, let's say, or I haven't moved over enough, and then a lot of times I think it is people rushing. They have to get to where they have to go. So I'm usually like, I just turn it around and I'm not affected at all, because for me it's actually funny, and it's this moment to just be like, I feel bad for you, and I'm just going to wave and give you a thumbs up, and then off you go. And then there was also, I can't I've been here trying to think about whether I heard it on a podcast or in a book that I read about just being the observer of the situation, right? That when you see somebody trying to speed and weaving through traffic, or doing things that they're not supposed to, is just to observe it and just like don't engage, right? Just, oh wow, that person is going really really fast, and that's it, and just like leave it at that, right? And that reminds me so much of like Eckhart Tolle's work, where it's just be the observer, don't judge, because it's when we judge, then all of a sudden those emotions come in, right? That, oh, he shouldn't be going that fast, oh look what he's doing, oh that's dangerous. It's those type of comments that then start to agitate us, versus just, oh wow, look what that person's doing. And then don't, like, that's it, just observing. And you move over, you get into your lane, you wave, as I do, you wave, whatever, and then let it go.
Yeah, Teresa, I
Yeah.
like what you said about
Yeah,
don't
bravo.
judge, because we don't know what another person is going through, and then maybe that will help us not to engage. Sheila or Brian, do you have some additional thoughts on what we can do
Sheila, I'll let you go
differently?
first.
I think, I don't know if I have anything else to do about that. I know I'm the cause of it. That's at times too, because if my emotions are stupid, I think we all
See, now
do
the truth
stupid
comes
things
out.
sometimes.
See, the truth comes out. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, maybe you guys are all perfect drivers and have never made a mistake. But the other day I was pulling into a parking spot, and Zach was in the passenger seat, and we get pulled in, and he's like, I think you just pulled in front of that person that was waiting for it. And I had no idea the way it was lined up. It wasn't like an obvious thing. And so then the guy walked by me after, and I just smiled like, sorry.
I think, and then I'll channel my dad when I was growing up, because I remember, I'll tell this quick story and then I'll go to the thing. So when we had to, all of us had to go to driver's education, of course, and then you go to the DMV or whatever, and you pass their driving test, and then you get your license. My dad would say, "Oh no, you can't drive until you pass my test."
Mm.
And one of the things that he really espoused was um, understanding, you're driving typically a 1 or 2 ton vehicle, that you could hurt somebody with this vehicle, and that you have to drive, not, I talked about defensively earlier, but you have to drive with a certain mindset. And I think everything that we've talked about, generally speaking, around just becoming more self-aware, um, you know, propagating self-growth, meditation, and all that, is very important when you're driving. Because I think sometimes too that you attract certain circumstances to you if you're in a certain mindset. And so one of the things that, again, that I'll go to is, I talked about being calm, but it's more about taking what you're doing in life, like you're coming from your Bible class, or you're coming from a yoga kind of experience, or you've meditated, something around that you take that into your driving experience, and that you allow yourself to drive as you live. That was the thing that he mainly said,
Ooh, I like
that
that.
that people drive a
Mhm.
lot of times how they live their life. So if they're hectic and they're driving and moving around and all this, typically when you meet them in person, that's how they're living their life outside of driving.
Mm.
And
That's
so
good,
just
Brian.
keep that in mind.
Mhm. No, thank you so much. That's a really good perspective. I want to also just note Rick Worthy's comment. Rick, thank you so much for joining us. He says, folks texting and driving, so
Woo!
crazy, dangerous. And you know what? I did that too. It's dangerous, dumb. So we're not going to label Rick. We're not going to judge. But texting obviously is at a all-time high. And I did not get any statistics on incidents related as a result of texting. But of course, we all know. I mean, we look over to the person at the light and they're sitting there texting, and then they don't go when the light turns green. And then the person behind them is honking the horn, So that's just one small example. But yes, texting is a major
Woo!
cause of, I would imagine, contributor to road rage and
Mhm.
just accidents in general, right? So, Rick, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. I would add that, I don't know if anybody wants to comment on texting. I was going to also add, my children watch me. I have 2 kids, and if they were on the show, they would have a lot to say, I'll be honest, about my I'll say my aggression on the road at times. And so I had to really take a look at that, because now my 18-year-old is driving. My 14-year-old has started driving in the parking lots because she says she's not going to wait as long as her brother took, because I wasn't ready to put my son on the road because of all the craziness. So we delayed him getting his driver's license. So I think for me now, being more mindful that my children are watching every move, whether they, even though they have their AirPods on, they're still watching what I do. Do I let the person in? Do I, when I come around a Brian, in Michigan now, we have the roundabouts.
Yeah.
Am
Oh,
I
yeah.
courteous now
Yeah.
in the roundabout, or do I, make sure that I'm the one that gets the first position, if you will? So, right, I am competitive. So just making sure now that I'm mindful that I've got kids that are going to be subconsciously taking in what they observe in their mother's driving behavior. So that has helped me to a certain extent as well. And also, you all just pull back sometimes. So, Teresa, when
Yeah.
those people are driving really fast, I saw that yesterday. This guy was weaving on Woodward, Brian, out of 4 lanes. And I just pulled back, like, let this person go ahead and do what he's going to do.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or maybe
Yes.
Yeah.
just pulling back sometimes might be an instant strategy that you can take.
Pull over, like pull to the side, let them go
Go to the
through.
side.
And then I wish them well. I'm like, oh, Godspeed.
Right?
I
Right?
hope
Teresa.
you
Exactly.
get to like where you have to go
Really,
safely and
really
you don't hurt
quickly,
anyone.
how many times have the 3 of you seen a person who drives like that, and you pull off and you disconnect and you pull over to the side, and then maybe 5 or 10 minutes later you see that person in an accident?
Or with the cops.
I see
Haha.
them
Or
with
with the cops?
yeah, I
How
see
many
them with cop. And you know what I wanna do.
I know, right? You're
You
like,
know what I wanna do, but I don't. I just
you
keep going because I
yeah,
don't
you
wanna
that
engage,
little
but
kid, right? That little
right.
kid inside of you wants to go, "Nah, nah, 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 nah." But
But
it's not cool, because karma
right.
is
But
karma.
and karma is alive and well, obviously. And that's something too, maybe as a strategy, Brian, knowing that, this is not my fight, and,
Right.
to let it go, and that, things do come around, and that's not for you to orchestrate. There's a higher power, at play always. So,
Exactly. Before I go to plugging all of you about the various things that you're doing, one last thing I will say about this, and it goes to one thing that you were just talking about. Bless those other drivers.
mhm,
Just bless them.
yes.
Just bless them. Disconnect and bless them. and wish them well. Seriously, I mean, Teresa, you
Mhm.
just kind of talked about it, but wish them well. This was a great topic.
Yay.
Yeah,
Who
thanks.
thought that talking about road rage would be such a great topic? But it is a good topic because we're all driving these vehicles, and it's driving these vehicles it's important. It can be dangerous, and
It
so
can be
we have to.
dangerous, Brian. It can be dangerous, and you know what I do also remind myself, I wanna make it home back to my kids and to my husband. So,
Exactly. And we want
disengage.
to and with our families, especially our young children, we want to model for them how to drive.
Yes,
Because how we drive is how they're going to drive.
exactly.
And
And
so,
they may not, because they're inexperienced, they may not have the
oh
have the
no.
experience.
Mm-mm.
So, yes.
I know when we got that insurance bill that
Ooh,
first time with our son. Mm-mm.
yeah.
Whew.
But thank you all so much for sharing and being open and forthcoming. I appreciate it.
Excellent,
Thank
excellent.
you.
Well, why don't we run some stuff down in terms of things that you guys are doing and offering to our audience real quick. Sheila, I'll go to you real quick for anything that you're doing that you want to tell everybody about.
All right. Well, I work with people individually and in groups, but I do have a special discount for Soulivity listeners here. So Brian will put that in the box over there for you guys to grab at some point. But I work with people on a soul level. So if you came on the show because of the topic of grief, that one of the things I do help you connect with your loved ones who've crossed over, resolve any unfinished feelings or information that you want to share with them, but also find a way to connect and bring them into your life on a regular basis. So if you're interested in a soul connection session, you will get a Soulivity discount through the link that will be posted in a minute.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. And Teresa.
Thank you. So I invite anyone listening today to catch my live show at 12 p.m. It's called the Steps to
Woo-woo.
Happiness Show. And so I invite you to catch that. If you can't catch it at 12, then it's always available to watch the replay. Secondly, there's going to be some courses being posted on our Aspire platform. And Brian, I don't know if you've talked about Aspire, but maybe you want to let some people know about what that is. But there'll be 2 courses posted shortly. One is going to be my 8-week happiness program, where every week we're going to be taking a look at different tools that we're going to be incorporating just to further our journey towards living happier lives. And then the second program is going to be a life coaching program. So if anyone listening is thinking that they may want to become a life coach, then this certification program might be for you. So you can find more information about that on Aspire.
Perfect, perfect. And I'm gonna put some stuff up here about Aspire. And we're gonna be talking more about that as the days go on because we want you to join this additional platform that's there to help you with your aspirational dreams.
Mhm.
And going over to you, Dr. Chanel.
Thank you, Brian. I offer a 1-hour strategy session to talk about if you are dealing, especially with women. I work with women who are highly successful but may be unfulfilled in their personal or professional life. Maybe they're exhausted from trying to hold it all together and afraid to go after what they really want. I offer a 1-hour free strategy session for us to unpack where you are, where you want to go, and what is getting in the way. And so I offer that to you, and then we go from there.
All right. Well, this was a great show, y'all. And we're definitely going to have Dr. Karen Johnson back. Technical difficulties happen when you're doing a live stream, and we try our best to make sure and mitigate all that stuff. But even times it happens. So we're going to have her back. We're going to reschedule her and talk more about her book, Living Grieving. And listen, so on behalf of all of us, I want to say thank you for joining us today for another edition of This Morning with Soulivity. We hope that you come back and join us every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, or you can listen to the rebroadcast at 11 a.m. Eastern for all of you on the West Coast. Until next time, keep having real conversations with passion and purpose and create a life full of high quality living. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.